Welcome to Horror Review Sunday. Let's talk about Wes Craven's first horror film he ever directed, and that is The Last House on the Left. I already reviewed the remake back when I first started my channel, so you can listen to my thoughts on that one by going over there to that video. And so let's talk about the original, which I have on this unrated Blu-ray collector's edition that has a poster of some chick that's not in the movie, and there's a person with a black leather glove holding her face like it's a giallo, and the house on the poster is not even a house in the movie, so very deceiving poster. So this movie is about a group of girls, two girls, on their way to a concert, but they stop to buy some weed, and they get abducted by these psycho rapists who take them out into the woods, and just so happens to be close to where this girl lives, and they attack them and rape them, or at least one of them, and they shack up at the victim's parents' house, and then shit gets crazy. Funny enough, Roger Ebert actually likes this movie. I thought that was interesting, and this was produced by Sean Cunningham, who would go on to do Friday the 13th, and Steve Miner worked on this movie as like a PA and an editor. And one of the rapists in this movie, his name is Krug, like almost close to Freddy Krueger, Wes Craven's in Nightmare on Elm Street later on. And the cast of this movie has a bunch of no names, no one that I recognized. I looked them up. They're all a bunch of porn stars. They did sex films around this time. Some of them did sex films together, like right after this movie. And like the dad character, I think, did sex films. One or two of the characters that are the rapists were porn stars. The main actress who gets raped was a porn star, I think. And then I think even the sheriff in the movie did sex films as well. Like everyone in this movie just did porno films. So no one in this movie was really an actor, except now that I think about it, there is one person in this movie who went on to have a huge career that doesn't seem to talk about this movie, and that's Martin Kove, who plays the deputy. He, of course, went on to do all kinds of movies. He was in the Karate Kid, and most recently VFW, a movie from 2018 or 2020 that I highly recommend. So he was the one recognizable actor in the film, but he has a very small role. So getting into my likes, what I like about this movie is I really like the antagonists. I thought they were great in their roles. They're evil, but they also have some personality, like just their conversations. Wes Craven doesn't give them like cliche bad guy dialogue. They're not so over the top. I also appreciate the fact that this movie doesn't linger on the rape. Like, this isn't I spit on your grave level. This is very quick. I went into this remembering that it was more brutal than it was, but it's very quick. So I like that. It makes the movie more rewatchable, because I don't want to watch a movie where I watch a chick get raped for 30 minutes like I Spit on Your Grave. This one's very quick and to the point. In and out, they're done. Now let's get to the revenge. And I like the third act. The third act is very fun. There's a lot of suspense. Like, you don't know when they're going to attack, when the parents are going to find out who these people are, and we already know how crazy these people are and what they're capable of, so we don't know what they're going to do to these parents, if the parents will make it out or not. But then the parents fight back, and they set up booby traps and shit, and it plays out very fun in the third act, and it's just so cathartic to see these assholes get what they deserve. It's also a very short movie that runs pretty quickly. It's only an hour, like 20 minutes. It's like an 82-minute movie, I think. So it's never really boring. It cuts to the chase pretty quickly. And, there's a nice little setup at the beginning. They set up this nice, like, Christian family. The parents are all about morals, and they're like, what's wrong with today's youth? And back in our days, like, they're those kinds of parents, and they just establish a good, healthy family, and then we see their arc at the end when they turn into monsters because of these other monsters, when they find out that they're capable of being violent and when pushed. As for my dislikes, a little nitpick is I thought that the main two girls just didn't seem all that scared at first when they're in the apartment. Like their performances just weren't convincing me that they were in danger. They just seemed like they were very calm. Even when they first got to the woods, they just didn't seem aware of what was happening. Like they didn't seem to feel threatened by these people. So I just was taken out of it because of that. And also, the music is dreadful. I don't like almost any of the song choices in this movie. And one of the rapist characters, Krug, I read he was a composer for the film. And so, and I think it's just because of the low budget, which is another thing that kind of hurts this film because of how low budget it is. I think that's why the music kind of sucks. Like the song choices and how they're played, and some of the audio mixing and the sound designs. Like it's very low budget, so that might turn some people off. It did turn me off a bit. Uh, but yeah, it was just bad music. And then that one scene with the chicken truck driver, like take that scene out. You got a whole subplot with these two cops that goes nowhere. So it's just filler because this is only like 80-minute movie. So I feel like the cop thing was thrown in just to add some levity to the film because of how dark it is mostly. There's some weird dark humor in the movie also, but it's mainly a serious, horrific movie. But they throw in this cop subplot to add some time to the film and some levity that I'm not a fan of. Like, I would have preferred this to be more serious, more dark, take out the cop stuff because it was just cringy. The music there, the chick driving the truck, like, get in the back. All I don't know all the lines, but it was just bad. So take that out and change the music. And also, there's some major conveniences. So the writing felt a bit forced, a bit lazy. Like they just crashed their car right in front of one of the chicks, their house. Really? Like that's a major coincidence. And even the character says when they find out where they are, they're like, what are the odds of that? And then the cops that I was just talking about, their car runs out of gas. And they say, like, how far is it? It's 25 minutes driving. But how long does it take them to get there running? Like over 12 hours. It's like broad daylight, and when they get there, it's like almost the next morning. It's like, what the fuck took them so long? So it's like, really? So, final thoughts. Despite my problems with the movie, I still like it. I think it's a must watch. It's a landmark of horror. It's one of the first rape revenge movies. This is way before I Spit on Your Grave. It's the first, I believe, Wes Craven film, and it's gritty, it's nasty. It's got a little bit of levity thrown in, if that's your thing, but it has some issues, but it's quick, it's brutal, and especially for the times. So when it comes to The Last House on the Left, I'll give this one 3.5 stars. Spoiler discussion. So the opening says, based on a true story. Is that true? I doubt it. I mean, I'm sure there's similar cases out there, but, there's rape every day. So, yeah, I guess it technically is based on a true story. But, yeah, so the mailman is not wearing a mailman uniform, and he's just driving his everyday station wagon. So they couldn't afford a uniform for this guy or a proper USPS mail van because this guy is clearly not a mailman. They establish that the main girl in this movie is just now turning 17, but we get to see her fully nude, underage nudity. And the dad quickly realizes that she's not wearing a bra because for some reason he just stares at her chest as soon as she walks in. He's like, your nipples are showing. It's like, well, Dad, why are you staring at her chest? That's creepy. Cut it out. And so, they give her the necklace, and that's going to come back later on. And they're going to a concert called Bloodlust that sacrifices chickens on stage. So I guess this is just Wes Craven saying, today's generation is all about violence. We like violence and blood, and the older generation was much more peaceful. And so then, speaking of chickens being sacrificed on stage, was that where the chicken lady in the truck was going? She had all those chickens in the back, maybe she was driving to the concert to drop off those chickens to be sacrificed by bloodlust. So then they go to the apartment where the killer rapists are, and they ask Toad for pot, and he lures them inside and gets them captured so that he can get his heroin fix. So I guess the big message here from Wes Craven is that don't do drugs. If they didn't stop for pot, none of this would have happened. So drugs are bad, okay? There's some odd editing in the movie where like sentences get cut short, kind of like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where a character will be talking and then all of a sudden it just cuts. David was like threatening one of the girls, like, if you scream, I'm gonna. And then just it cuts to the family cooking a cake. I was like, what the fuck? Like, so there are some weird editing choices. So they put the girls in the trunk and they drive off for miles, and then their car breaks down right in front of Mary's house. Coincidence? And so they go off in the woods and they force the one girl to piss her pants, and then they're trying to force her to slap the other girl, but Toad puts a stop to that. And then they're forcing each other, forcing them to strip each other down fully nude. So the one friend tells Mary, I'm going to make a run for it. And when I run, they're all going to chase me and you can go. But when she does do that, Toad stays behind. And for some reason, Mary decides to spend like over 10-15 minutes trying to like convince him to let her go instead of just trying to fucking run. Like, she should have just ran for it. At least try. But she was like trying to be all friends with him. Like, I'll give you a new nickname because you're cute. I'm gonna call you Willow. And then, so the other friend gets stabbed and gutted, and her intestines are being pulled out. And she was like that close to safety. You can see the road and all the cars driving by, the traffic. So it's like she was that close. And the intestine effect did not look that good. It looked like a condom filled with, corn syrup. Then they bring her friend's severed arm back to her to show her that, they fucked her up, and they just throw the severed arm at her. That was pretty brutal. And then they rape her, or just the one guy rapes her, and it's very quick. And then she just calmly walks away to the lake and then gets shot like 2-3 times. So then they stop by the family's house, and we hear Sean Cunningham's voice on the CB. So when they get to Mary's parents' house, they tell them that their car broke down in front of their home, and for some reason that means they have to spend the night instead of just calling a tow truck or fixing whatever happened to their car. Like he said, we blew a rod, which I kind of chuckled at because of my dirty mind. I thought he was referring to his dick. Like, yeah, I blew a rod all over your daughter's face. But really, they have to spend the night because they blew a rod? Like, why can't they just get a tow truck and drive them somewhere? I don't know. I wouldn't let a group of people spend the night in my house. You can really tell how low budget this movie is when they're having dinner because it looks like they're just on a soundstage, like some completely darkened room, just like it's nothing but pitch black behind them at the dinner table. Like they're in the middle of an empty room, no set decorations, nothing. It looks like they're just in a pitch black room with just the one light above. Just the scene looked weird. It's very low budget. And so then we get this interesting dream sequence where he imagines that the parents take like a chisel to his teeth and knock them out for some reason. So then the mom sees the necklace on Toad, and it's like, that's my daughter's necklace that we just gave her, and then goes and sneaks into the room, gets in their suitcase, finds all the bloody clothes, and then her and the husband sneak out at night and somehow know exactly where to go. Can anyone explain how they knew where to go? Like, I don't understand that at all. That felt like a convenience too. Like, okay, something's wrong. There's bloody clothes. They have our daughter's necklace. So they must have did something to our daughter. So let's go run out into the woods. And they find her body immediately, but it's no longer in the lake where she got shot. Her body's now on the shore. And how did they find her body so quick? It's like they knew exactly where to go. So I understand that. But then they start doing all this booby trap setups. that don't really help much. It seems to be a Wes Craven signature where characters set up booby traps, like in Nightmare on Elm Street, in The Hills Have Eyes. He's been doing it since the beginning, and the people under the stairs, that whole house was rigged with shit. So almost every movie of his has booby traps. But in this one, it was like, haha, I made you slip on whipped cream. That got you. Ha. Like, what did that do? It slowed him down for a second. But yeah, so we get like a chainsaw fight. So that was pretty cool. And then the mom bites the other guy's dick off. And then she slits the other girl's throat. And then the main antagonist gets the druggie to blow his own brains out, which was an interesting scene. And then the cops arrive as soon as it's all done, which is a horror trope that I can't stand because it's done to death, where at the end of the movie, when everything's done and settled, like the cops arrive, like, oh, we're here to save the day. Oh, it's all done? Okay, all right, bye. So it's like, you guys are useless. You just wasted so many minutes of the movie with your presence. You weren't needed. So, yeah, that's really the end of the movie. So what are your thoughts on the movie? Do you like it? Is it your favorite Wes Craven movie? What is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's all an opinion. You don't need to get upset about it.